Baltimore, 1996. A bloodied woman stumbles out from beneath the Hanover Bridge, screaming in terror. He's killing people. There's human meat. He's grilling burgers. At first, the cops thought she was just another drug addict. But when they entered the makeshift shack under the bridge, they didn't smell decay. They smelled meat, grilling, delicious. Inside, there was a charcoal grill, burgers sizzling, fat dripping into the coals. And next to it, an old fridge. Inside, slabs of raw meat, still red, veins, fingers. A bucket sat on the ground. Inside it, a human head, eyes wide open. And next to the grill, in the shadows, sat a massive man, over 500 pounds, blood-stained white shirt, calm, smiling. "I'm just fixing dinner," he said. "Want to try? The meat's fresh. I picked it myself, from a body." His name was Joe Metheny, and what he served to strangers in greasy buns, hot off the grill, wasn't pork, it was people. Joe Metheny was not born into a family soaked in blood, nor was he a child marked from birth to become a monster. However, from a young age, deep emotional scars were planted in his mind, which over time would sprout into something far darker. He was born in 1955 in Baltimore, a city plagued by poverty, where life and death often felt like they were separated by a thin thread. His father, an alcoholic, was hardly ever around to provide the protection a child needed. His mother, a woman who struggled daily to raise her children, could not escape the constant abuse from her drunken husband. Joe was an abandoned child, never knowing the true warmth of love from his parents. At the age of 8, he witnessed scenes of violence in his home that no child should ever see. His father would regularly beat his mother, while his mother sank deeper into depression. It was a childhood full of darkness, and the emotional wounds inflicted upon him would never heal. At the age of 17, Joe left home to live on his own. He tried to find work, to build a life for himself, but reality pushed him into the wrong path. He began to dive into dark, dangerous lives, from temporary jobs to encounters with addicts and criminals. He realized that pain and disappointment were the only constants in this world, but the more he lived, the more he felt forgotten by it. It all began in 1994, when Joe's girlfriend, a heavy drug addict, suddenly disappeared, taking their young son with her. Joe woke up to an empty house, no note, no explanation. No one knew where she had gone. To him, it wasn't just abandonment. It was a betrayal that lit a fire inside his already twisted mind. He snapped. He became convinced that she had run off with another drug user, taking their son into the filth and chaos Joe hated. In his warped perception, she hadn't just left. She had declared war on him, and he would fight back, with blood. Consumed by rage, Joe lured a woman back to his shack beneath a bridge. He questioned her about his ex, but when she couldn't provide any information, or perhaps simply because he didn't want to hear anything, Joe beat her, raped her, and strangled her to death. He hid her body, sat in the dark, breathing heavily, and felt something new. Satisfaction. He had killed, and he liked it. In the shadows of Baltimore, the homeless drift like ghosts, nameless, kinless, forgotten. If they vanish, no one bats an eye, and Joe Metheny knew it. He preyed on their invisibility, cloaking his savagery in the indifference of a city that didn't care. To him, the addicts, the prostitutes, the vagrants, they were perfect prey. They could disappear, and the world wouldn't blink. From 1994 to 1996, Joe slaughtered at least 10 people, though the true number may be far higher, lurking in the darkness of uncounted graves. He didn't kill in a flash of rage. No, Joe was methodical, deliberate, savoring every twisted moment of his murderous ritual. He'd cruise the city's crumbling streets, where broken souls huddled under awnings, beneath bridges, or in rotting alleyways. With sweet words, drugs, or a handful of cash, he lured them to his campsite. Then came the horror, torture, violation, the cold kiss of his blade. One woman, handcuffed, screamed as he severed her fingers one by one, until death silenced her. At first, he interrogated his victims, obsessed with finding his runaway girlfriend. But soon he needed no excuse. Killing fed a deeper hunger, not for food, but for power, for blood, for the erasure of another soul. He confessed it thrilled him, watching his victims beg, sob, and crumple in his hands, like a predator reveling in the kill. After each murder, he meticulously dismembered the bodies, saving the choice cuts for his burgers. The rest, dumped in rivers or buried behind his camp. No one suspected a thing. His burger stand popped up along roadsides, serving workers, truckers, and the down and out. They scarfed down their cheap meals, oblivious to the human flesh they were eating. Joe mocked the world. He sneered at the law, the police, at life itself. "If you liked my burgers," he taunted, "you're no different from me. You just don't have the guts to do it." His victims were nobodies. No missing person reports, no grieving families. Joe chose the perfect targets. Souls society had already discarded, voiceless, worthless, and now bodiless. Among them was Kathy Magaziner, a woman he killed and buried behind his camp. A year later, feeling untouchable, he dug up her grave, took her skull, and reburied it elsewhere. The rest of her body had rotted away. He simply tossed it. "I wanted to see how far it decomposed," he said. "Just a sick little game." The true terror isn't the body count. It's how Joe recounted his atrocities like casual anecdotes. No remorse, no guilt. Only a smug, perverse pride in feeding human flesh to an unsuspecting world. He once bragged, "If I hadn't been caught, I'd have killed dozens more." And the most chilling part? No one can say how many he really killed. Some think he exaggerated for infamy, but there's a darker possibility. Countless others may still lie undiscovered, their remains consumed by strangers who stopped at Joe's burger stand for a quick, cheap lunch, never knowing they were devouring human flesh. As the body count climbed, Joe Metheny faced a grim, practical problem: what to do with the corpses. At first, he'd dismember them, dumping remains in rivers or burying them behind his campsite. But the thrill of killing wasn't enough anymore. He craved something darker, more depraved. That's when a sickening idea took root. He'd turn his victims into food. Joe carved up the bodies with chilling precision, selecting the prime cuts: biceps, thighs, taut slabs of muscle. He ground human flesh with pork to mask the taste, seasoning the mix and shaping it into patties. To perfect his grotesque scheme, he bought a portable grill and set up shop on a busy roadside corner frequented by laborers. His makeshift sign was simple, almost mocking: "Cheap burgers, you'll be hooked." Within days, Joe's roadside stand became a local staple. Construction workers, truck drivers, and the city's downtrodden lined up for a hot, dirt-cheap burger. No one asked questions. No one suspected a thing. Joe reveled in the twisted perfection of it all. He hadn't just killed his victims. He'd erased them from existence. Those he hunted weren't just prey anymore. They were meals. He sneered at the world, chuckling to himself every time a customer raved about his burgers. "They're eating human flesh and don't even know it," he gloated. "It's the ultimate rush." To Joe, the burgers were more than food. They were a perverse game of power. He controlled life, death, and even what people put in their stomachs. And Joe didn't just serve human flesh, he ate it. "Human meat's not much different from pork," he bragged. "Season it, grill it, and you'd never guess the difference." For him, this wasn't just about disposing of evidence. It was a way to prolong the high of his crimes, to keep his victim's essence alive in every bite, every breath, every twisted laugh. Baltimore, summer of 1996. Beneath the city's grimy pulse, a depraved butcher operated with chilling calm. But every reign of terror has an end, and for Joe Metheny, that end came crashing down faster than he could have imagined. His final target was Rita Kemper, a desperate addict who'd crossed paths with Joe in the city's desolate camps. Luring her to his fetid campsite with promises of drugs and a place to crash, Joe planned to repeat his gruesome routine: drug her, violate her, kill her. But this time his prey fought back. Rita, fueled by a primal will to survive, landed a desperate punch to Joe's face. Bloodied and barefoot, she bolted from the reeking, gore-streaked shack into the pitch-black night. Joe roared after her, "Get back here, you bitch!" But Rita scrambled over a barbed wire fence, her trembling legs carrying her to a nearby security post. A chase that failed. A victim who lived. And for the first time in years, the devil's mask was ripped away. In a frigid Baltimore interrogation room, under the sickly glow of a flickering bulb, Joe Metheny's sweat-slick face looms like a nightmare made flesh. The air grows thick, not with rage or fear, but with the suffocating weight of his calm. A sick, unshakable calm that clings to every word he utters. He talks. No prodding, no coercion, just a flood of words, as if he's been waiting his whole life to unleash them. Joe leans back, a faint, dreamy smile curling his lips, eyes drifting to the ceiling. Then, like a collector admiring his trophies, he begins to recount his victims. The first one was 1994. Started out of anger, but then I realized killing's like drinking. The more you do it, the easier it gets. The easier it gets, the more you crave it. His voice is steady, devoid of remorse. He doesn't just confess to the murders police already know. He volunteers more. Crimes they never even suspected. There was this girl, Kathy. Lured her to my camp, tied her up, had my way. Then, well, killed her. Easier that way. Silence grips the room. The only sounds are the faint hum of the recorder and Joe's voice, spinning a grotesque tapestry of horrors no human should conceive. He brags about his human burger scheme with twisted pride, as if grinding human flesh into patties and serving it to unsuspecting strangers was some infernal masterpiece. They ate every bite, he smirks. Not a soul suspected. Sold a ton, too. People thought it was just grilled pork. Mid-confession, he pauses, not to reflect, but to casually ask for a Coke. Then, as if discussing the weather, he picks up where he left off. No anger, no fear, no shudder of guilt. To Joe, this isn't a confession of mass murder. It's a fond memory, a twisted tale of a weekend well spent. His indifference is the true terror. Seasoned detectives, hardened by years of grisly cases, sit frozen. One later admitted, "I've seen evil. It has a name, a face, and it was sitting less than a meter from me." Joe doesn't scream or fight. He just sits there, a hollow-eyed storyteller weaving a legacy of blood. And his words, they'll haunt anyone who hears them. December 1996. Joe Metheny's name screamed across Baltimore's headlines, branded with chilling monikers. The butcher, the burger demon, the cannibal giant. Yet as he stood before the judge, he didn't flinch. No denials, no excuses, not a whisper of remorse. "I'm guilty," he said, his voice flat and unyielding. "I did it because I liked it. Let me out, and I'll do it again. Faster." The courtroom froze, a collective shiver rippling through the air. He admitted to at least 10 murders, but the police could only pin 3 with solid evidence. The others, likely buried, dumped in rivers, or, most horrifyingly, devoured in the charred patties he'd sold to unsuspecting strangers. Throughout the trial, Joe remained devoid of emotion, as if watching a rerun of a show he'd memorized. The judge's gavel fell. Life without parole. The harshest sentence possible, yet for a man who felt no regret, it was little more than a long, state-funded retirement. In the bleak confines of Western Correctional Institution, Joe Metheny faded into a ghost. No friends among inmates, no visitors, no letters. No one cared. On August 5, 2017, a guard passed his cell during a routine check. Silence. No response. Joe was found sprawled on his bunk, eyes wide open, mouth slightly agape, as if caught mid-sentence. No one knows why he died. No struggle. No final words. No one claimed his body. His death was as cold and empty as the man himself. Silent, anonymous, unmourned. No funeral. No gravestone. Just a corpse cremated and scattered to oblivion, erased forever. But while his body is gone, his words, those grotesque, bone-chilling confessions, linger like a stain in America's criminal annals. Because Joe Metheny did not die as a human being. He vanished like a nightmare that never fully wakes. Joe Metheny is dead, but the horrors he left behind refuse to rest in the grave. No monuments honor him, no songs sing his name. Only blood-soaked case files and nightmares, too grim to speak aloud, remain. Those who crossed his path, cops, lawyers, psychiatrists, even fellow inmates, all echoed the same chilling observation. There was something in his eyes, something inhuman. Criminal psychologists cemented Metheny's name among America's darkest. A serial killer defined not by body count, but by the grotesque glee he took in his atrocities. He didn't kill to hide. He didn't kill in a frenzy. He killed because it felt good. His story became a grim cornerstone in classrooms, dissected by students of psychology and criminal law as a textbook case of absolute dehumanization. And the most terrifying truth? He was once ordinary, a boy starved of love, a young man who served in the military, a worker who clocked in every day. That reality sends shivers down the spine. The devil can lurk beneath the most unassuming mask. Today, Joe Metheny's name resurfaces whenever humanity's worst crimes are whispered, a specter that haunts the edges of memory. Not because he lives, but because he never truly left the public's psyche. To the world, Metheny isn't just a killer. He's a warning, a proof that evil doesn't always roar. It can smile quietly, unnoticed. And the final, gut-wrenching question lingers, clawing at the mind. Have you ever eaten a burger like that? This is the chilling true story of the depraved killer, Joseph Roy Metheny. If this tale left you haunted, smash that like and subscribe to the channel. Want me to dive into more of humanity's darkest corners? Drop a comment below to fuel the next bone-chilling video. Thank you.